After my father died, my sister inherited the luxury apartments. And me, I got an old broken motel. People laughed. My husband didn't. He looked at me and called me useless, then kicked me out with my two sons. That night, we slept in that empty motel. And what I found there left my entire body shaking. Before I tell you what it was, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, let's begin. My name is Zara. I'm 33 years old, and I'm a mother of two sons. 3 weeks after my father passed away, we gathered for the will reading. The room felt formal, quiet, cold. My sister Amelia sat straight, confident as always. Her husband held her hand like they had already won something.
My husband sat next to me.
He didn't look at me once. The lawyer opened the file and began reading. The downtown apartment complex will go to Amelia. My sister smiled immediately. Her husband squeezed her hand. They both looked proud. Then the lawyer continued. The Sunset Highway Motel will go to Zara. For a second, the room went silent. Then someone cleared their throat. My sister tried to hide her smile. My husband didn't even try. On the drive home, he didn't say a single word, not one. That night, Amelia and her husband came over for dinner. It was supposed to be a family meal, but it didn't feel like family. It felt like celebration, just not mine. Halfway through dinner, my husband raised his glass. Well, he said, looking at my sister. At least one daughter got the real assets. Amelia laughed softly. Her husband chuckled. Even my aunt smiled awkwardly.
People laughed.
I forced a small smile. I told myself it didn't matter, but it did. Later, after everyone left, the house became quiet. Too quiet. My sons were upstairs in their room. I was clearing plates when Daniel finally spoke. A motel, he said. I didn't answer. A broken highway motel. He continued. It's still property, I said quietly. He turned toward me. Your sister builds wealth, he said. You inherit garbage. His words hit harder than I expected. I felt small. Then he said the words that changed everything. You're useless. Silence filled the room. Then he looked toward the stairs where our boys were sleeping. And he said something I will never forget. Take them. Go live in that motel. I stared at him, waiting for him to calm down, to take it back. He didn't. You heard me, he said. If that's where your father left you, go live there. My hands were shaking, but I didn't cry. Not in front of him. I walked upstairs, packed clothes for my sons, and leave. The motel was 40 minutes away from the city. The highway was dark. My daughter fell asleep in the car. My son kept asking, Mom, are we moving? I said, just for a little while. When we reached the motel, the sign outside was flickering. Half the letters didn't light up. The parking lot was empty. No cars, no guests. The office door creaked when I opened it. The smell hit me first. Old wood, dust, closed air. I found one room that looked cleaner than the others. I wiped the beds with tissues. I spread our jackets on top of the sheets. My kids were too tired to complain. They fell asleep quickly. I stood there watching them for a long time. This was not the life I imagined. Not after 10 years of marriage. Not after helping my husband build his business. Not after taking care of everything at home. Around midnight, I walked back to the front office. The power was still working. A small lamp was on behind the counter. I sat in my father's old chair. There were old guest books on the desk, dust-covered folders, a broken clock on the wall. I opened one drawer. Empty. Another drawer. Old receipts. I don't know why I kept searching. Maybe I was angry. Maybe I wanted to understand why he gave me this place. Then I noticed something strange. Behind the front desk near the wall, there was a small wooden cabinet. It looked newer than everything else. Cleaner, less dusty. That didn't make sense. No one had been here in months. I walked closer. The cabinet door was locked, but the key was hanging on a small nail beside it. I froze. Why would my father leave a key in plain sight? My hands felt cold. The motel was silent. The highway noise outside was far away. I held the key, and for a moment, I wasn't sure if I was ready to see what was inside. My hand was shaking, not because I was scared of the cabinet, but because I was scared of finding nothing. If it was empty, then the motel really was just garbage. And maybe my husband was right. I slowly pushed the key into the lock. It turned easily. Too easily, like it had been used not long ago. I opened the cabinet door. Inside, there was no money, no gold, no dramatic surprise, just files, thick envelopes, a rolled-up map, and a small metal box.
I pulled out the map first.
It was a land survey. The motel property was outlined in red ink, but something else was marked, too. A blue line running across the back of the land. I didn't understand it. Then I opened one of the envelopes. Inside were letters. Most of them were from the city. Some were from private companies. One name kept appearing again and again. I had never heard of it before, but the letters were recent, very recent. One of them was dated just 3 months ago.
My father was already sick by then.
Why was he still receiving letters about the motel? I kept reading. The clear's throat, words were simple. Proposed highway extension. Future commercial zoning. Redevelopment notice. My heart started beating faster. I opened another envelope. This one had an offer letter inside. It wasn't for a small amount. It was more money than the motel could ever make in 10 years. I sat down slowly in the chair. The motel wasn't valuable because of the rooms. It was valuable because of the land. The back part of the property sat directly in the path of a new highway project. The city planned to expand the road. And when that happened, this quiet, empty motel would sit at the center of a major exit. Traffic, businesses, hotels, gas stations, everything. The letter showed the developers had already contacted my father. They wanted to buy the land, but every letter ended the same way. Offer declined. He never sold it.
Why?
I kept digging. At the bottom of the cabinet, I found the small metal box. This one was locked, too. But the key was already inside the first envelope, like he wanted me to open it. Inside the box was a single handwritten note. It was from my father. My hands felt weak as I unfolded it. Zara, it said, if you are reading this, then I am gone. I stopped breathing for a second. I know what people will think when they see the will. Let them think it. Let them think it. I didn't give you the motel because it is small. I gave it to you because it is strong. My eyes filled with tears. The city will approve the highway project within the year. When that happens, this land will become more valuable than anything your sister received. I cover my mouth. He knew. He planned this. He continued, you have always been patient. You read before you act. That is why this belongs to you. I sat there for a long time. The motel was not dying. It was waiting. And my sister didn't know. My husband didn't know. No one knew. The letter showed one more thing. A final meeting request from a development company. They wanted to talk again. The date was next month. They were still interested. Suddenly, the humiliation at dinner felt different. The words useless felt smaller. My husband had laughed at this place. He told me to live here. Now I was sitting on something he never imagined. I folded the letters carefully, put everything back inside the cabinet, locked it, not because I was scared, but because I wasn't ready to tell anyone. Not yet. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my sister. Her voice was light and happy. We're refinancing one of the buildings, she said. Envy's investors are excited. I could hear confidence in her tone. How's the motel? She asked. I looked around the dusty office. It's quiet, I said. She laughed softly. Well, at least it's peaceful. After the call ended, I stepped outside. The highway was busy even this early. Cars rushing past. No one noticing the small sign that said Sunset Motel, but soon they would. I stood at the back of the property, staring out at the stretch of open land beyond the final row of rooms, the exact place where the blue line on the map was drawn. That was the point where everything was meant to change. For the first time since my husband had shut the door on me, I didn't feel discarded. I felt chosen. Still, I needed confirmation because words on paper are one thing and reality is another. If the highway project hadn't been officially approved, then this was nothing more than a possibility. I took out my phone and searched for the city planning office number. If my father had been right, then this motel wasn't my punishment. It was my future. The call was answered on the third ring, and I quietly stepped outside while my children were still asleep, the cool morning air brushing against me. "Planning department," a woman said. I gave her the motel's address, and after a brief pause filled with the sound of typing, she confirmed that the highway extension project had been approved just last month. Approved. My heart began to race. I asked when construction would begin, and she told me preliminary work would start in 4 months, adding that the area would be rezoned for commercial use. Commercial use, meaning hotels, restaurants, gas stations, real money. Carefully, I asked if anyone had reached out to the property owner recently. She said several development groups had already shown interest. I thanked her and ended the call, realizing this wasn't just an idea anymore, it was real. That same afternoon, I called the number listed on the latest offer letter. A man answered, introducing himself as Daniel from Horizon Developments. I told him my name was Zara and that I was calling about the Sunset Highway Motel. There was a brief silence before he explained they had tried contacting the previous owner. I told him he had passed away, and after another pause, he said they were still very interested in the property. We arranged to meet on Friday. 3 days later, on Thursday evening, my husband called, the first time since that night. His tone was calmer now as he asked if I had come to my senses. I told him I was fine. He reminded me I had no income and couldn't stay there forever. I glanced at my children playing near the empty parking lot and replied that I wouldn't have to. He sighed and mentioned my sister was closing a major investment deal that week, saying I should see what success looked like. "Maybe I will," I said softly. The next morning, Daniel arrived with 2 others. They didn't mock the motel or look at it with disgust. Instead, they looked at it with genuine interest, the kind that meant everything was about to change. We walked the property together. He measured the backland, took pictures, asked about access points. Then we sat in the office. "Dora," he said, folding his hands. "Once the highway exit is completed, this location becomes prime commercial land." "I know," I said calmly. He smiled slightly. "We are prepared to make an offer today." He slid a folder across the desk. I opened it. The number inside made my chest tighten. It was more money than my husband had ever earned in his entire life, more than my sister's yearly rental income. And this was just the first offer. "I'll need 48 hours, I said.
Of course, he replied.
As they left, my phone buzzed. A family group message. My sister had sent a photo. She was at a restaurant with investors. My husband was there, too. The caption said, "Celebrating real assets." I stared at it for a moment. Then, I typed one message. "Let's have dinner Sunday." My treat. Sunday night. Same restaurant, same table. My sister looked confident. My husband barely looked at me. Settling into motel life. My sister asked with a smile. "It's peaceful," I said. My husband leaned back. "Ready to admit you made a mistake?" he asked quietly. I placed a folder on the table. "Not really." My sister frowned. "What's that? An offer?" I said. "For what?" my husband asked. "For the motel." He laughed. "Who would pay real money for that place?" I slid the papers toward them. My sister's smile slowly disappeared. My husband stopped breathing for a second. He read the number twice. This isn't real," he said. "It is," I replied calmly. "And that's just the first offer." Silence covered the table. My sister whispered, "That's more than my buildings are worth." "Yes," I said softly.
My husband looked at me differently now.
Not with anger, not with pity, but with shock. "You knew?" he asked. "My father knew," I said, "and he left it to me." The waiter came to the table. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," I said, closing the folder. "Everything is finally okay." 2 months later, I signed the final deal. I didn't sell all of it. I kept a share in the development. The money secured my children's future. I filed for divorce the same week. This time, he didn't call me useless. He didn't laugh. He just asked if we could talk. But I had already heard everything I needed to hear that night. He told me to leave. My sister tried to act supportive. But something had changed. She stopped calling it just a motel. Today, when I drive past the construction site, I see cranes, steel frames rising, traffic building. The old motel sign is gone, but the land is still mine. My father didn't give me the smallest asset. He gave me the strongest one. And the night my husband told me to go live in that motel, he thought he was throwing me away. He didn't realize he was sending me straight to my future.